Thank you very much for your wonderful introduction. Esteemed members of the Retailers Association of India, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaste and a very good morning to all of you. It is my immense pleasure to be amongst you, to be a keynote speaker to this wonderful conference with a wonderful theme, wonderful topics, wonderful speakers and panelists. I'm sure it's going to be a very important day today. I understand when I was just discussing before I came with the executive team also, this association represents almost 3,600 members with 7,000 odd stores, and it's quite large. And people come from across the India. I represent, of course, I'm a Central Council member of ICAI. Most of us, I can see, most of us are chartered accountants over here because of CFO. I'm sure majority of them would be a chartered accountant. And it's a proud feeling for me to be a Central Council member of an ICAI. You would be glad to know that today we are almost 4 lakh chartered accountant members with 8 lakh students. And we are the single largest accounting body in the world today because of the strength of the members and the students. ICAI is closely associated with all these retail associations. Mr. Rajgopal was talking about MSME. I would just brief you. ICAI, because it has entered into 75 years of its existence, 75 years of trust, ICAI had come up with the MSME Yatra in the 75 districts of India just to promote the registration of the small retail associations, small entrepreneurs, maybe the service providers, to register, to come forward and get registered under the MSME Act so they can get a benefit under the MSME Act. And the results were profound. They were successful. I believe after this yatra, around 40 lakh registrations took place during this 75 days yatra. It was done on a continuous process all across the India. Coming to this conference, yes, it's a really wonderful, as I said earlier, a very wonderful topics chosen. The first one being a panel discussion which will happen on whether it's a growth or recession. So I was just wondering, and I was just discussing before the conference start, one of the panelists was saying, is there really a recession? I don't know. Or maybe from a world perspective, the organizers have thought about this topic because I'm sure the world countries, USA, UK, all the developed countries, China is also facing some crisis. And possibly that may be discussed today by the panelists. But as I see from an Indian growth story, obviously, I see the next 2 decades, or maybe more than that, would be India's story. Not only our Prime Minister of India is aware of this, his efforts are completely concentrated towards the growth of the businesses. Made in India was one of the things, entrepreneurial promotion of the entrepreneurs over here is another thing which I believe. And I've been given to understand that even the retail segment has been growing at the 9% on an annual. I don't know whether I'm correct, but I've been told that. And there is a huge investment which has come in last 3 years, which is almost 4.68 billion US dollars in this particular industry. So considering the amount of investments and the growth which we have seen in last 2 years, 3 years, even after the COVID, I think so there is quite a good growth. I'm sure the growth should continue, but I think so we should listen to the experts. I'm sure this topic would be quite interesting for all the participants. Coming to the second panel discussion which is going to happen, which is of course dear to my heart also, is the role of CFO, especially from a regulatory compliance. We all are aware the retail segment has the most regulatory compliances. If I can just think of something, you have a Weights and Measurement Act, obviously GST, income tax, various products, different rates, different ITC calculations, different compliances, TDS, tax deduction at source, tax collection at source. So there are a lot of regulatory rules which is involved. And the role of CFO is going to be it is challenging, but I'm sure even in the last times when the GST came in, I think so retail segment has done very well. And there would be seen as a non-compliance. But from an association point of view, I believe if there are any debatable issues when it comes to a regulatory compliance, the association plays a very important role. If there are debatable views and if the retail segments, if the one particular entity or an enterprise is taking a different view when compared to another, you have a risk of a litigations. You have a risk of high penalties, interest, and therefore the role of CFO is very important. Role of association is very important. So wherever there are debatable issues, association can be a proactive, I believe, take a particular view which can be spread across the industry, and industry-wide can take a view. That view may be a right, may be wrong, may be accepted by the judicial bodies or the court of law, I do not know that. But obviously, there could be a research done, and at an association level, if a one view is taken, there are fair better chances of safeguarding yourself or ring fencing yourself of the penal consequences. Obviously, accounting challenges for this particular industries are also important. At this stage, I would like to invite you to please do look into our publications institute, also try to bring on publications on the accounting aspects. There was an old technical guide on accounting issues in the retail segment, which was issued in 2012. Obviously, it's 10 years now, and the dynamics have changed. It is already under the revisions, and I'll also speak to the committee members of this association to take their inputs when we are revising it. Apart from that, there is also a technical guide issued for purpose of internal audit of the retail segment. So I think so that could be serve a reference purpose. It could be of an important use. Because there are a lot of accounting issues to my mind, like a lot of loyalty programs are there, how to account for this loyalty points or mileages or whatever you may call. How do you value them? How do you accrue them? How do you redeem them? How do you discharge indirect taxation on that? How do you discharge TDS, TCS obligations on that? So there's a dynamic, challenging role for the CFOs, and I'm sure you all are equipped definitely. And in today's important discussion, I'm sure all this will be discussed, and I'm sure the participants will be benefited largely in this account. Another aspect which I believe is a panel discussion which is going to be happening on revenue leakage and pilferages, which is one of the most important area which I think so hurt the retail segment if it is not controlled properly. Obviously, the role of CFO in this is also quite substantial. Not only CFO, but whole of the finance function, operation functions, a small revenue leakage, small. Maybe it may look very small if there's an inventory loss or cash loss, or if there is any bug put in a system where your suppliers' prices can even change by a 10 paisa can make a huge difference. And therefore, the revenue leakage and privilege is a very important. It is a very important area to be controlled. I know you all are aware of it, but this panel discussion may throw some new lights to it. It may come up with a new softwares, technology, which may help you in reducing, may not be completely evicting it, but yes, reducing the revenue leakage to quite a bit extent. Most importantly, of course, inventories have been always an important area for any retailers. Pricing accuracy, as I said earlier also, if if I have a contract with the valuers, and if there's a bug, if anybody wants to do a fraud with it, and if the price is changed by 10%, it can create an havoc. Then the POS controls, revenue controls, collection at the point of sales, all those things I'm sure would be discussed during the day, and it's going to be a wonderful panel discussions. Fourth, which will be again a part of, I believe, of the same panel discussion itself, is an operational efficiencies and logistics. Logistics plays an important role. Having a proper logistics contracts can change the way profitability of the retail segment arises, the profits. If the logistics is a costly affair, or if it is not been properly managed, I am sure it affects your financial balance sheet the way it look at, and that's why it is important. Fourth important area, which I again believe is capital expenses. I know that the retail industry is subject to quite a high cost of capital. Lot of capital requirements is there, and therefore the cost of the capital needs to be within the control limits. That could be the one of the game changer, I believe. If you are able to control your cost of the capital, I'm sure the financials may look at it in a very differently, may look at different. And the role of the CFO in that is definitely very important. And your relationship with the banking industry, how you raise capital, how you raise the capital from the primary market, maybe secondary market, or through bonds, through green bonds which are coming. Sustainability measures also is another important area which is now coming up. BRSR reporting has been made mandatory for certain class of companies. Maybe if I do not forget, around top 250 companies in the first phase, it would be applicable. Even from an institute's perspective, we have already set up a separate committee, and also a separate course, certificate course have come up to ensure that the members who are involved in BRSR reporting, they are equipped with the knowledge about it, technical know-how for reporting, and even the legal knowledge for that. So with this, thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. I'm sure the way this panel discussions has been scheduled, it's going to be a very enlightening for all the participants, and it would be a wonderful day today. Happy learning. Thank you very much. Thank you.